Hi, welcome back to nutrition discussion number 2 for the fall 2021 semester. My name is Andy Sykes. I am the strength conditioning specialist, nutrition specialist here at WSU Campus Rec. And today we are going to be discussing pre-workout supplements. So the different ingredients that are in those and which ones work and how they work. And is it going to be a benefit to you as a participant of a workout or an athlete in different clubs, sports, or things like that. So I'm going to share my screen and go through this. So let's get that going. All right, you should be able to see Fueling Your Workout, Pre-Workout Supplements by Andy Sykes. So here, just a quick Google search on some supplements, some common ones here that you may see. And just a quick Google search will get you those. So what are the ingredients in there, and are they having any effect? Well, what are they claiming to do first off? Well, we see just by looking at the labels, they're telling you extreme energy, intense focus, fueling growth of muscle tissue, enhancing your performance, prolonging your endurance, insane pumps, so getting blood flow to the muscle. And are these going to be a benefit to you? Do they do them? And then is that going to be a benefit for your type of exercise is what I'm going to get at today. So I want to start that by talking a little bit about what happens at a basic level to contract a muscle. Okay, and then we'll talk about how long you're contracting it for, at what force. So in order for you to contract a muscle, you have to send a signal from your brain down your spinal cords, this active potential going through the nerve, which is a sodium potassium pump. We'll get into that. And then the acetylcholine as the neurotransmitter, the calcium release, and that ATP production for the cross-bridging of the myofibrils that actually contract your muscle. When these muscles contract, there is byproducts being produced, and the main one is the hydrogen ion, which makes the environment more acidic and causes fatigue. So once the contraction happens, you're battling now, how can I sustain this energy and intensity of contraction versus how much fatigue is being created and not being able to sustain it. So you've got this battle of fatigue versus sustaining energy. The type of exercise that you're doing is going to require different levels of neural activation, and it's going to create different byproducts and use energy at different rates. So you're really looking at that depending on the type of exercise. Now, if you're a strength and power athlete, okay, you're going to be having higher weight loads. That's going to require more muscle recruitment to actually move against that force. So every time you pick up a weight or do anything, move a muscle when it's contracting, the fibers that create that movement are contracting at 100%. But if it doesn't require much force, you just don't recruit many muscle fibers. So you recruit maybe 10% to lift your arm. But if you were to put 10 pounds in there, you'd have to recruit 20, 30% to lift the arm, things of that nature. Hopefully you get the idea. So when you're working strength and power, lifting heavy weights as fast as possible, there's a huge neural drive sending stimulation to the motor units and recruiting fibers as much as they can and to contract as intently as they can. This creates you can't do it very long, a huge fatigue, but very acutely. You can't do it for many reps, and you then fatigue and fail. So the majority of that stimulus and the ability to do that action comes from the neurological stimulation. And there isn't much nutritional supplementation that can really help that. Versus if you were to go longer duration, going into hypertrophy or muscle growth, which is lower weight, less recruitment, still a lot, but less intense, and a little bit more byproduct production that we have to deal with. The things happening in the body are going to change a little bit. Okay, and then even more so, you go to muscular endurance, even less, and cardiovascular endurance, even less than that, where we've got very little muscle contraction as a potential of what we could do, but we're doing it repeatedly over and over and over again. So it's less about how good our nerve impulse is and more about how can we sustain this energy so that we can continue this for long periods of time. Okay, so you can see I've got the slide up here that I've categorized them in 4 different types, as I mentioned: strength and power, hypertrophy, growth of the muscle size, Muscular endurance, you'd also think a little bit more into intervals between hypertrophy and muscular endurance, and maybe body composition changes, weight loss is going to be in there. And then cardiovascular endurance, long duration, steady state exercise. So those modes are going to influence the type of muscle contractions happening, and then how we fuel those muscle contractions and how we deal with the byproducts of those muscle contractions. So we live in an aerobic state, okay? As humans, we breathe oxygen, we create energy through that oxygen pathway, through the Krebs cycle, through beta oxidation using fat. And we live at this low intensity. And whenever we want to increase intensity, as when we work out, we have to shift our energy production, okay? And as it goes into more intense, it becomes anaerobic without oxygen, which is we know is glycolysis, the use of carbohydrates or glucose, glycolysis. And that we able to produce energy at a lot quicker rate, but there is a byproduct, there is a downside to that higher contraction. You can't do it for as long. And then even more so, if you want to go even higher intensity, almost maximal intensity, we have to use the phosphagen system, which is the 3 energy systems that we have. So that phosphagen system is the fastest and it fatigues the quickest, and we fuel it slightly differently. And so we've got some different exercise examples shown on the screen there. What you're doing, you're wondering, okay, what type of energy system am I using? Here's some examples there, but you'll see majority of the time when you think about pre-workout, you're probably thinking, I want to go hit the weights in the weight room. So it's going to be close to the anaerobic side on that left side of the screen, where we'll show you glucose and the byproducts of hydrogen and stuff of that nature. Okay, next one, metabolic demand. As I mentioned, this is really how pre-workouts on all exercise works, is you have energy available and for sustained movement. And so this metabolic demand, it shows you the 3 different energy systems in a slightly different way here. You got the phosphagen system in blue, that's showing you can go all out intense, you can have a lot of energy, you can do that, but it doesn't last very long. You can see that go all the way up and all the way down within about 30 seconds. Then you've got your anaerobic system, which is a little slower to ramp up and can last about 3 minutes. And then you've got the aerobic system. Like I said, we're in that right now. So we're on that green line and it produces long duration energy, but it's not very intense. Okay, so you can see the intensities there, the durations, the work to rest ratios, if you're interested in that, are shown on the screen too. But okay, those are the kind of exercises. Now we're going to say, okay, what ingredients, what supplements will actually help you achieve those? So first off, strength and power. Okay, as I mentioned before, maximal force contraction. Okay, we're trying to recruit as much as we can. High recruitment, high demand for ATP, but short term. Okay, it's going to want a lot of ATP to create maybe up to 6 reps. And then you're not doing many repetitions when you're strength training. Okay, so not much, but that neural drive is high. So how do we fuel that? Well, we need our nervous system to be really ready to work. So the first thing, stimulants. How do we get ourselves stimulated? Now this is going to be more to do with how you warm up and your technique in executing the lift than it is about pre-workout. Okay, there isn't much that nutritional supplements can help you in 1 to 6 reps. Okay, within 15 seconds or so, it isn't going to help. But the more reps you do, if you do multiple sets, if you're working out for a longer duration, it will slowly start to get to the point where nutritional supplements can help. Now, caffeine, of course, is the most used supplement or stimulant there is. And we see that dosage about 3 to 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So you're looking around 200 milligrams probably in a dosage. Now, this actually it may make you feel better for your day. Who knows what you've gone through prior to workout? It may have you a little bit, perk you up a little bit. There isn't much evidence to show it's actually going to increase the weight that you lift. Okay, caffeine has more of an effect at the longer duration events. Same way it helps you during the day, right? Helps you on the long day. Same thing with the workouts. It doesn't really help you lift any more weight. What may help you is sodium, okay? As I mentioned, the action potential through our brain and nervous system works on a sodium potassium pump. So getting sodium in is likely to help really innovate those nerve fibers and really make sure that we're contracting with all effort that we can. With that, acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter. So this alpha GPC it's got a lone study. It's pretty early. There isn't a lot of evidence for it, but it is showing around 600 milligrams can increase power output, so high velocity. It was a throw, I think a med ball throw or a bench throw, the power output. And a study shown that. How does it work? Well, it's with the choline concentrations in the brain and allowing nerve impulses to flow through. And so we're seeing more neurotransmitter, more activation of that muscle motor unit, and then more contraction and force as a result. Also, creatine. Okay, creatine is not going to help you do a 1 rep max any more weight than it would, but it will help you maybe 2 reps, 3 reps, 4, up to those 6 reps that you may be doing with the strength workout. It will help you sustain a higher weight load for that, because it fuels the phosphagen energy system. Creatine phosphorylates ADP back to ATP, which is the energy we need for the cross bridging of the myofibrils. So creatine definitely is useful. 5 grams a day. You can do it by weight. I have it there, 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight. Will be useful. Another mention I have here is the ammonia salts. This you've probably seen this maybe on YouTube. You can always Google it or YouTube it. You're smelling ammonia salts. It's an irritant to the airway. It gets you kind of jacked up, as they may say on those videos. But it irritates you to the point where you're annoyed, and therefore you may have more aggression, irritation to stimulate nerve impulse and have higher force of contraction. So that's one thing to consider. One thing I have on here also to mention is carbohydrates, right? It's not really a pre-workout, but carb loading is going to allow you to have more energy. And if you're getting into the longer workouts, glucose is going to be used in the anaerobic system. So carb loading 5, maybe 6 grams per kilogram of body weight would be beneficial for strength-based workouts. All right, hypertrophy. Okay, this isn't so much on the maximal recruitment of our nerves, because it's going to be submaximal weight. We want to do more repetitions, so we can't be too high of weight or we won't be able to achieve the number of reps we want. We want to damage muscle fibers. We want to have a bad environment for the muscles so that they get damaged and they grow and they repair. So in order for this, we will see the progressive motor recruitment as you get tired, as you fatigue through this system of doing these reps at a moderately high weight. You will have to recruit more and more motor units as they start fatiguing. So it's progressive on its recruitment. It is a high demand for ATP. It's slightly longer in duration. It isn't as high acutely as the strength, but it's higher with the length of time that it's being activated for. And the fatigue is real high. You get the burning sensation with hypertrophy training, which is the acidic environment that's being produced by the hydrogen ions. Okay, that's what's causing the fatigue. That's what's causing you to not be able to rep it out any more than maybe 12 reps, really looking at 8 to 12 reps, maybe 15 at the higher end here. Really getting a hard burn in the muscle fibers. So how do we fuel this the best way? Through supplementation. Again, I mentioned carbohydrates would be a good idea prior. Okay, you should be carb loading if you want to have a good workout, no matter the mode really. But let's look at it. Stimulants. Again, caffeine is going to help you feel a little fresher as you go in there. Is it going to help you lift anymore? Probably not in terms of weight lifted. Again, it's more towards the cardiovascular endurance events that caffeine really has an impact on performance, but it will make you feel a little better. It's often in there, same dosage as I've shown, the sodium the same way to make sure we can have a good nerve impulse, and creatine the same. Okay, we're still using the creatine system when we're hypertrophy training. Okay, we do get that higher weight. We do need to phosphorylate and get ATP again. I've also added in here branched chain amino acids. at 100 grams per kilogram. Okay, so depending on your weight, 100 milligrams per kilogram. That seems way too high. Yeah, typo there. But branched chain amino acids, in particular leucine, are key to fueling energy systems and making sure that we don't have protein degradation or catabolism while exercise is going on. So branched chain amino acids. And then because of this burning sensation, this acid buildup, we can start to use buffers, which allow you to take away the acidity in the blood and deal with it. Often goes to the liver for that, and the kidneys. But this allows you to remove that and continue exercise in this system. So the two main things that are used for pH buffers are beta alanine, so it's an alkaline to take away the acidity, or sodium citrate. Okay, beta alanine, 2 to 6 grams. The higher end is commonly used, 6 grams in pre-workout, and this sodium citrate of 0.44 grams per kilogram based on your body weight. I like the sodium citrate as well because it's got the sodium in it, so that you're hitting two birds with one stone with the stimulant side on the nerve impulse. With the blood flow, the best one is citrulline malate. You've got arginine, but it's starting to have less evidence to suggest it's actually converting in the body like citrulline malate does into the nitrates and allowing vasodilation, which is that opening of the blood vessels, allowing blood flow to the muscle, which is going to enhance nutrient supply, right? The creatine that you ingest, anything you're ingesting to the stomach's got to get to the muscle. So that's coming through the blood. So if we're allowing vasodilation, allowing increased blood flow, your body's going to vasoconstrict to areas that is not in use and vasodilate to the areas that is in use. And so whatever muscle is being worked is going to get a better supply of nutrients. Also, you're going to be able to flow the byproducts out of that cell. And you're going to have higher pressure within the muscle cell. When we're trying to create hypertrophy and damage muscle tissue, it's about how much swelling. The pump is important. We want that intra pressure that is going to swell the muscle and create more damage. So more blood flow helps with that. So there you go. Oh, extra credit. If you're watching this for my strength and conditioning class or my nutrition class, send me the word preparation. That's the code word, preparation. If we can prepare, preparations and separation I learned. So preparation is our code word today. Muscular endurance, so third on our list here. As you can tell, we're looking at endurance, so longer duration, okay? So that means that the force production's got to be lower, otherwise you won't be able to sustain it for that long. The recruitment would be progressive. As you fatigue, as it does get to that longer term, you are going to continue to recruit. So there is some nerve impulse there. The demand for ATP is low, but it is sustained. And fatigue is low, otherwise it wouldn't be endurance, right? If it was high fatigue, you would have stopped early. So fatigue is pretty low until towards the end where you hit that fatigue kind of threshold. When we look at it, we're thinking, okay, how do we deal with the byproducts of contraction? How do we sustain the energy production for this long term? And how do we fight this fatigue? Okay, that's the main thing. So when we look at supplementation, again, this is where caffeine can start to play a role with the 3 to 5 milligrams per kilogram. The sodium is always important. It's going to help you with the exercise. Okay, if you have high blood pressure, I should have said it with the others, probably want to watch out for sodium. It's going to increase blood pressure, but it will help nerve initiation. Fueling, creatine is going to be still have a role here. So creatine will be helpful. The branched chain amino acids still the same. They're going to be helpful, again, providing energy intra-workout, within the workout, making sure we don't catabolize any of the protein that we have being used. And again, going on to the pH buffer, as we get to that more acidic environment, the beta alanine, sodium citrate are going to be useful. The beta alanine is the one that makes you feel a little tingly. That's that paresthesia. So a lot of people don't like that. So if you stay at a lower dosage, that you won't feel it as much. The 6 grams is where we see the most benefit in terms of the buffering capabilities of beta alanine, but you will feel the side effects of that paresthesia, which is the nerve irritation, and that gives that tingling feeling. The blood flow is going to be important, so there is not much difference here between muscular endurance and hypertrophy training. They are pretty similar in terms of how we can fuel them in terms of supplementation. You've got the arginine or the citrulline malate that will help the nitrate within the body and help that vasodilation. Cardiovascular endurance. Okay, so this is low contractile force. This is low recruitment. This is low ATP acutely, but if you add it all up long term, it's going to be a high energy demand. It is low in fatigue because of, again, we're doing it for long term, but that will build up just as the demand for ATP builds up, okay, and then the recruitment builds up. So it's less acutely strong and more prolonged strong in all of our needs. So supplementation, this is where caffeine really shows to have a difference with taking it or not taking it prior to exercise. If you want to do a long duration event, caffeine is going to be helpful here. With long duration, we have a large amount of sweat being produced. We have a high heat from muscle contraction and prolonged muscle contraction. So the electrolytes that are sweated out through our body to keep us cool need to be replenished. And so that sodium, potassium, magnesium as well in there, chlorine, you could even say, and calcium. Calcium with the muscle contraction is key. So we've got the dosages there, sodium between 0.5 and 1 gram, really needed at least an hour of exercise, but close to the 4th, maybe 6-hour exercise bouts with long cardio bouts. The potassium, 3 grams a day. Calcium is a gram. You maybe do 0.5 gram, but it depends what you've taken prior in the day. Fueling the body, well, the big one is glucose, but you're not going to do it immediately prior as a pre-workout. You should be doing that days prior, carb loading. The B vitamins, they're not going to enhance performance at all, but I put them in here because they do help to fuel the energy systems. So B vitamins are known as your energy vitamins. They have no energy in them, but they help the biochemical reactions that produce ATP within the Krebs cycle. So they can be helpful there. The branched chain amino acids, the same. I've just increased the dosage here on the recommendation up to 20 grams. One I've added here that we haven't seen yet is the L-carnitine. L-carnitine helps lipid oxidation, so helps you use fat as a fuel. Now, when we think about intensity of exercise, and if we go back to a previous slide and we looked at that scale of aerobic to anaerobic to phosphagen, cardiovascular endurance events are on the aerobic energy side. Okay, so we're using fat. So things that help us metabolize fat or distribute fat to the muscle for energy are going to be useful here. So L-carnitine at 2 grams a day is going to be useful in cardiovascular endurance events. The blood flow is the same that I mentioned before. Arginine, 6 grams a day, or citrulline malate up to 8 grams a day. Other things I'd mention here would be iron. Okay, iron helps our red blood cells, our hematocrit, hold oxygen. So as we're breathing, we can become more efficient in our ability to take oxygen out of the air, utilize that and carry it in our blood, and then take away the carbon dioxide. Okay, so iron's important. 8 milligrams a day for men, 18 milligrams a day for premenopausal women. Again, in a pre-workout, probably not so much. It's more of a multivitamin type thing that you're going to take in a daily intake when you wake up or go to bed. With that, the calcium, with that vitamin D, so you help calcium absorption, and maybe even your B vitamins. Okay, so some of these will go more of a daily intake rather than just pre-workout. So that's the 4 different categories that I mentioned. Another thing I'll mention here is when you're looking at the label, if you see these symbols, these icons, logos, these are third-party testing assurance logos that are saying basically that the company that's produced this supplement has paid extra for this third-party company to test what's in it, make sure exactly what is said is in it. So look out for those. You do normally pay a higher price for them. So not all supplements have them because it will increase the price, and then that's going to hurt the supply and demand. But these are good things to look out for, especially if you're an athlete, NCAA athlete, your Olympian, things of that nature. These are assuring you that this is exactly what is in, what the label says is in this supplement, and there's no banned products in there. So look out for those. They're a good thing to see on the label. And that's it. That's my presentation. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, andy.sykes@wichita.edu. Happy to help you answer those, and we can discuss this a little bit more. Until next time, have a great day. See you later.